all I'm going to say. Please make Trish welcome. And needless to say, I'm glad she's wearing pink, not orange.
Oh, good morning. I am excited to be here for the second day. I'm so glad. Whenever I come to a conference and I'm speaking, I always try to come to the whole conference. So I had a fantastic day yesterday. It does two things. One is I get to listen to other people's great material and pitch it. No, I'm kidding. But I learn too. See? And the other thing is, I get to hear your heart. I get to have a chat with you around the coffee table and find out what's important to you. Because it's one thing for me to come along and say, well, they need to know this. It's a little bit arrogant sometimes, don't you think? You know, well, they obviously, this or that. And in fact, after yesterday's talk about your roles and all that sort of thing, and I saw what I described myself, you know, I work for myself, I don't have a big team. Every now and again I will utilise people, but basically I come in, I do workshops on anger management, communication skills, and I give keynotes about my story and how it helps other people. And calling myself a CEO, I thought, that's not right. It's not right. I'm just somebody with a story and some helpful lessons from my story that might help you. So I don't know what title you'd give that. What title would you give that? You know, I'm kind of like an in the trenches kind of a girl. You know, when I'll come into a company, and whether I'm talking to the leaders and the execs and the executive assistants like yourself, and don't worry, I don't come in and tell you how to do your job. That's not my gifting. But I will provide things to support you in doing your job. So what do I know about conflict? What do I know about communication skills? What do I know about resilience and being in the trenches? And what is it that I will not ever put my nose in the air all high and mighty and I'm just so good? I can't afford to do that. In 2009, I spent 8 months in prison. Somebody didn't read their bio. I did. For real. Can you tell? No? No. What is orange in the new black? Is that true? Is that how it is? Sorry to disappoint you. It's nothing like it is. But it is difficult. It's damaging and it's awful. And can you believe the first table I sat at yesterday was full of Queensland Police Service? So I moved. I moved tables so I could just get to know some more people. So I moved to the next table, and who am I sitting with? QBS! Can't get away from it. Ball and chain. No, I'm kidding. So why is she smiling? Why is she cheerful? I am an overcomer. I'm here to say that it does not matter what has happened to you. It is how you see it, how you respond to it, that determines how well you move on. And that works in every area of life. And that's why my story is powerful. And just so that you're not sitting there saying, what did she do? Because that's what you're doing. What is she doing? And I need to get that out of the way so that we can get on to the good stuff. It is possible to accidentally fall on a knife 17 times. Sorry. It's 15. And it was an accident. No, it wasn't an accident. I used an error of judgment. I wasn't quite in the role of an EA, but I was doing admin work for a fellow who turned out to be a fraud. He had a registered managed fund, licensed. At first it wasn't, and then it was licensed. And what I didn't know, my role was to pay people for their return on their investment every month. And He had stolen all the money, and in 2000, and I had money invested myself, 6 figures invested myself, and he had stolen it, and I didn't know. And it was up to me to tell everybody. He said, look, the market's doing this, there's no payment this month, and it wasn't guaranteed. So it was my job, kind of a gatekeeper, but more like the other way. They were storming this gate, wanting to know where their money was, and I had to tell them there's no money this month. Well, after 3 months of doing that, I caved under pressure. I could not take it anymore, and I made a wrong decision. My fear and my anxiety was greater. It overtook my ethics. And I used money in the company to pay everybody, to give them some relief and to get them off my back. I knew it was wrong. I didn't quite know how wrong it was. I didn't know that it was prison time wrong, but it was. And that was 2005, 10 years ago. Over 2 years, who was the lady working in the liquidator's office that I was chatting? Yes, that's right. And you know the process. Over 2 years, we had half a dozen properties. They were all sold up. And then I was prosecuted in 2007. That took another 1.5 years, but these things take a long time. Who's in legal services? Lawyers, yeah, it takes a long time. And during that process, I had to cope with all of that stress. And I wrote a book actually I didn't publish it straight away, but I had to research and wrote a book on fraud warning signals because I didn't want it to happen to anyone else. And I published that after I came home. 2009, I have a husband and I have 3 teenage girls now. Now they were little girls at the time. I went to prison and my eldest daughter was 10 and my identical twin girls were 7. I did the wrong thing and I paid a price for that. Now I can keep on paying that price by beating myself up and locking myself away. When I came home, I found myself virtually unemployable. My background was sales. Fraud conviction. Who's in HR? How does that work with the shortlist? No. Now I come into the companies and give talks. And get paid more than I would when I was Everybody has a history. Everybody has things that they're learning about. And I had 20 years of personal and professional and spiritual development that I had to draw on. And fortunately, I was able to find out what worked and what didn't. And the one thing that changed how I faced life was that I went into prison and I experienced some really angry people who did not know how to control their anger. You see, at least in the workplace, there's a degree of civility, a degree of control, boundaries. And, I'm using the broken globe because, the conflicts in the world, the greater conflicts, are really just a multiplication, a magnification of our own interpersonal conflicts. Would you agree? They really are, because it's all about the same thing. It's either I want something you have, or it's fear-based. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that pretty much nearly all conflict, most conflict, is fear-based. And so I was in prison with these angry, hurting women. And what I saw after a while was that they were people. They were women. They had history, they had families, they had hang-ups, they had insecurities, they had bipolar disorder sometimes, some of them had schizophrenia, some of them had this, that and the other, some of them had killed the man who'd been beating them up for years and years. But they were all just people. And when, I'm a rescuer by nature, which is not pat me on the back for that, it's actually a flaw in my character. And that's why I paid the money to people, because I felt like I had to rescue them, fix the situation. Fixer, rescuer. Who else is a fixer and a rescuer? Yeah. Got to watch our boundaries. But what it did is it turned my heart inside out. And when I see people who are, shall we say, out of sorts, what I see is somebody who's struggling inside, and hurting people hurt people. And it doesn't stop at the door when they come to work. They just struggle harder to repress it. And sometimes it spurts out here and there, like the cracks on the wall that we've seen there. So, our, is this our clicker? Managing conflict. Our topic is that as EAs, you're supposed to be better than everyone else at managing conflict. And I would like to point out that yesterday, on one of the panels, it was either Dr. Desley or it was Laura Denham, who was it, who someone said, we're not trained in soft skills, but we're expected to use them. Who heard that? Well, that's odd, isn't it? And you guys are actually in a position, because you are EAs, to have influence over the sorts of training that comes into the organisation. Well, don't dip out yourself. You know, if there's a class going on that's helping your guys, your salespeople or your, you know, the interpersonal skills, try and hop into it, because there's such benefit there. What this says is there are 10 roles. Now, this is not mine, this is from Third Sight. But it was so good I wanted to bring it in for you. When you are looking at conflict, you are looking at, there's a scale, isn't there? There's a level of conflict management that sometimes it's a low level and it goes up. So you might start off as providing tools to help people, or as a teacher or a bridge builder. But then when there's a slight disturbance, then you guys are the meat of the sandwich. Is it fair to say that? That where they're a bit scared to come to the executive, but they'll talk to you about what's going on. What you don't want is to have things escalate so that you become a peacekeeper. I looked up peacekeeper on the internet and all these pistols showed up. It's not a strategy I'd recommend. So would you agree that dealing with it at the lower level and preventing it is probably a smarter strategy than waiting till it escalates? Yeah? Excuse me. All right. So this is where I was. And that's what it looks like. And all around the edges are the cells that were our rooms that look like this. And quite often we have to share. So they wedge another vinyl covered mattress on the floor and you would share with somebody, and there's no privacy. And male or female officers would look in the window every 2 hours to count you, make sure you're there. So the shower is behind the wall and the silver dome at the top is a mirror. Now in close quarters like this, you have to get along. You have to get along. You have to get along. And you also talk and you have intimate conversations about someone's history and what they're really about. Sometimes in the workplace, you're so busy that you don't have time to find out what's going on in someone's life. And sometimes it's not appropriate to ask them, oh, how'd you get that bruise? Fell down the stairs? Sure. I mean, that's extreme. But sometimes when someone's dealing with the stress over here that they cannot confront, they will snap at what they can confront over here. So the problem is not always the problem.